Okay, good morning. Welcome to the Groton Utilities Commission / Water Pollution Control Authority meeting for March 16, 2022. Being held in the City of Groton Council. Call the meeting to order. Roll call. All commissioners here with the exception of Commissioner Mathenall. Safety moment, Mark.
Yeah, so this morning I thought I'd talk a little bit about hearing protection. You know, the weather's starting to get nice. You're all going to start digging out your weed whackers and lawnmowers and chainsaws. Hearing loss is in the top 5 workman's comp claims across the country. So just a couple things. So workers who are exposed to high levels of noise can suffer permanent hearing loss, and sometimes not even surgery or hearing aid can help. In addition, even repeated exposures to loud noise for just short periods of time can add up to permanent damage to hearing. So OSHA standard 1910-95I1, employers shall make hearing protectors available to all employees exposed to an 8-hour time weighted average of 85 decibels or greater at no cost to the employees. Hearing protectors shall be replaced if necessary. So a couple of bullets around that. So kind of a rocket launch is about 140 dB. That would cause immediate pain. A jackhammer is right around 130 dB. Construction machinery typically runs at 110, truck traffic 90, and a speaking voice is typically around 70. So OSHA regulations state that 85 decibels is the actual level where workers may need to use hearing protection. And hearing protection must be provided the level or the range of noise that the employees will be exposed to. So the best hearing protection is a solution that's worn properly by the individual, and every time they do the job that they're exposed to some loud noise. Never improvise hearing protection, you know, sticking cigarette butts in your ear. I've seen that before. It's not a good solution. Stuffing cotton tissue, wax, or other items in the ears. Items can get stuck in the ear canal and in severe cases puncture the eardrum. So when choosing hearing protection, consider the hearing needs on the job or at home, right? So your lawnmower is, you know, probably between 90 and 110 dB. So think about that when you purchase hearing protection. Look at the noise reduction factor on the package. When choosing hearing protection, consider the hearing needs, the individual's current hearing ability, convenience and ease of use of the hearing protection, the work environment, and compatibility with other PPE, for example, wearing hard hats or face shields. There's things, hearing protection that is made to be integrated with hard hats and things like that. So that's what that's referring to. Where noise levels are extremely dangerous or potential impact noise levels are present, workers may have to wear 2 layers, right? When I go to the indoor shooting range, I use 2 layers of hearing protection. So that's the safety moment for today.
Okay.
Take care of your hearing.
For the record, Commissioner Mathenall is here. So we have all commissioners. For the minutes, I'll take a motion to accept the regular meeting minutes of February 16, 2022.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Are there any corrections to the minutes? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion carries. Approval of the treasurer's report. I'll take a motion to accept the treasurer's report.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any comments or discussion of the treasurer's report? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion carries. Communications correspondence. We have a thank you from the Native Plant Trust that was in our packet. Public communications. Oh, hold on. Was there any other communication or correspondence that's been received since the packet was sent? Okay. No. Well, and that's going to go into public. I'll go into the public communications. Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Okay. Going into public communications, we received an email from San Meadow, 300 Main Street. There have been 3 odor days since the last UC meeting on 2/16/22. They were Saturday 2/26/22 p.m., Friday 3/4/22 p.m. and Monday, 3/14/22 p.m. All three incidents were called to customer service. In each case, the wind was from the southwest, blowing from over the plant and blowing towards my house. Again, there may be more odor days, but I can always smell it in my house with the wind coming from the southwest. For reference purposes, there's only one odor day in the same time period a year ago. The winter has been particularly bad as far as odor events. This is very concerning since usually during the cold winter months, things are better and there is some sort of temporary break from the odor problems. This does not forebode well for the upcoming warm spring and hot summer months. So here we are, more than 32 months since the odor problems began on July 8, 2019. And the only potential relief in sight that I'm aware of is the proposed new scrubber system. This currently is only in the early design stages. Projected time frame to have it online is not until June 2023. Again, I thank the commissioners for their help in advance. Public communication, is there anyone who would like to speak publicly today? Please, so please come and state your name and address. And if you, is there a red light on your microphone?
It's green.
Okay. Please speak into the microphone so we can capture.
My name is Joellen Anderson. I live at 215 Plant Street in the city of Groton. And I'll try to be very brief because I've spoken to this issue before. World Water Day next week. National Drinking Water Week is coming up in May, and it's the 50th anniversary of the Clean Water Act in October. I was at a couple of the libraries recently, and I have found this glossy brochure that touts the using the reservoir roads on their master plan. I have seen master plans in the past, and they're pretty interesting. So I think it just bears watching what's going on, keeping informed. One of the organizations I belong to is touting water this year, so it's going to be a lot of events to get people outside to appreciate the water. Over 90% of the properties of the organization I belong to have some sort of water on them, and a couple of them actually have national wild and scenic rivers designated on them. So there'll be an interesting year. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Just to address your concern on this, we'll talk more about this later in the meeting, but this master plan, this was the original master plan that they come up with, so they're going to stick with that until such time that the master plan is either changed or something else. So it is in the beginning when they first come out with a master plan, that's what they have. So the utility is looking at it and what we can do within the utility, and when we finally get our report, we'll brief the commissioners rather, but that'll come up more later today. Okay, regional water update. Aquatonic Cove interconnection, I assume it's right.
Nothing much has changed. We're still we're getting some metals, but pipe and materials are not going to be a long way away, it looks like. So.
Okay. Monthly financial highlights.
Should we have the first round goes through the
Yeah,
water?
first.
I start with water and sewer first, and then do that. Okay. So since we're going to have Mark to help us do a presentation for the electric power adjustments presentation. So today I'm going to choose the order for the financial highlights. I'm going to start with water and sewer and the electric.
Yep, hold on. So what we're going to do is we're going to deviate a little bit today. We have Mark Osham on online, and he's going to do water first, then sewer, and then we're going to talk about electric, and that's going to bring us into a discussion about power adjustments. That's how we're going to handle it today. Please start. Please continue.
Thank you. So I'm going to start with water. Water revenue for the month total is 863,000, which is 8.3 or 78,000. less than the budget and 4.2% less than last February. So the negative variance for the revenue is driven by the industrial sales and the sales for resale, which is below the budget by 17.8% and 21.8% respectively. Fiscal year to date, the water revenue total 7.6 million, which is 2.3 or 177,000 below the budget and 3.6% less than the last fiscal year to date. So the negative variance is also driven by the industrial sale and sales for resale, and which below the budget by 3.1 and 7.5% respectively. This is mainly due to the usage, the decrease. For operating maintenance expense, February 11.8% below the budget. And the depreciation expense is 50% below the budget, which is due to the delay of the water treatment plant project. Net earning before the grants, this total 210,000 more than the budget. The favorite variance is driven by the below budget operating maintenance and the delay of the project, offset by the below budget revenues. This year to date, operating and maintenance expense are total 9.4% below the budget. And the depreciation is almost 50% below the budget. To net earnings before the grants are 1.7 million more than the budget. For this 1.7 million, the water treatment plant related is 1.2 million, and the other 50 the half million is due to the below budget of operating maintenance expense. So for the water treatment plant project was completed and closed in February 2022, and the project loan obligation was closed to a total of 39 million with 2% interest for 20 years, starting at the end of February. So as end of February, we restricted a total 3.9 million for cash to pay for the loan and interest for the water treatment plant project. Any questions there?
Questions on water, Commissioners of that?
Yeah, were you referring to 128 on the balance sheet? Is that the? I'm not sure if you went in your last statement. I'm not sure if you're referring to
Correct.
3.9.
Yes.
How will those funds be applied going forward? How will they? Is that a reserve or is it pretty much planned money for specific projects?
Yes, so this reserve is, we started with our, when we started the first increasing of our water rates, we started kind of restricted little by little to put into this restricted fund in prepare for the repayment when the project's closed. Right now, we have our, like I said, the end of February, we close this loan and the total 39 million as planned. So we're going to have our first the payment by in 6 months, which is the August. So we're going to using these funds, what we restricted right now to pay starting the loan and interest going forward.
Okay.
After we use all of them, that will be according to our regular payment schedule in the further.
How long will this money last? You know, the full length of the bond?
For this 3.9 million, probably will only like available to pay for the first year of the
Okay.
loan and interest.
Any other questions on water? Okay, hearing none, Keith, please continue to sewer.
The sewer revenue for the month is total 354,000, which is 16.3 or 68,000 below the budget, and 3,000 more than last February. The negative variance is driven by the industrial sales, which is 25% less than the budget, is due to the deductible issue. So for fiscal year today, the sewer revenue total 2.7 million, which is 7.2% or 207,000 below the budget, and 18.7% less than the budget, less than last fiscal year today. the negative variance is also driven by the industry sales, which is 30.2% below the budget and due to the deduct meter. And they deduct more than what we budgeted. Operating maintenance expense of sewer for February is 6.9% or the 76,000 below the budget. And the net income is 2,000 more than the budget. Favorite variance of net income is driven by the below budget operating maintenance expense offset by the below budget revenues. The year to date, the operating maintenance is 80% below the budget. And net income is 208,000 more than the budget. And favorite variance of net income is driven by the below budget expense offset by the below budget revenue. But I want to mention here is as we close to the end of the fiscal year and we have more project and the maintenance we cut the PO and you will see more expense showing the financial report as we close to the end of the year. So we will show the more expense and less the net income. So we will more close to the as we budgeted. So this is overall for the sewer division. Any questions?
Questions on sewer? Okay, hearing none, please move on to electric.
So electric revenue for the month is 4.6 million, which is 12% or 491 more than the budget, but less than last February by 1%. The positive variance of the revenue is driven by the residential and industry sales, which exceeds the budget by 12.7 and 18.7% respectively. Year-to-date revenue for electric total 33.3 million, which is 4.2 or 1.1 million more than the budget, but slightly less than last fiscal year to date by 154,000. The positive variance of the revenue is also driven by the residential and industry sales, which over the budget by 4.5 and 6.7 respectively. And for heating degree days are 15% more than last February. So that means we have the colder winter compared with last February, and which is driven the loads, the usage is higher than last year and the revenue is higher than last year too. And no heating degree day for the month. Operating and maintenance expense for February are 9.5 below the budget. The income for the month is 423,000 more than the budget, and favorite balance of the net income is driven by the over budget revenue plus the budget operating and maintenance expense. This year today, our operating maintenance expense of electric is 11.2% below the budget, and net income is 1.2 million more than the budget. Also, the variance of net income is driven by the over budget revenue plus the below budget operating maintenance expense. So for conservation funds, total 88,000 were billed to the customer for the month, and we spent total 45,000 for the rebate and related administrative expense for the month. And end of the month, 2.2 million funds available for the conservation funds. So there's one thing we added to this month's financial is we're going to have Mark discussing more about the our purchase part adjustment. So here is just the I added some high level summary for something we're going to share with the commissioners today. So as everybody may notice, due to the impact is extraordinary high power cost to the wholesale electric market, the power supply costs have increased to 24% in 2022 and projected have another additional 15% increase in between 2022 and 2023. So this is all based on the forecast from the CMEC for the wholesale electric market. So since April 2021, GU already has utilized a total of 3.5 million from our restabilization funds to absorb the higher than normal the power cost and to mitigate the repairs impact. So we have to keep the minimum 3 months of power supply expense and the CMEC for the restabilization funds. So GEO has to pass the power cost increase cost to our customers. So what we're going to do is starting April 1st, we're going to have our purchase power adjustment, which called the PP adjustment, 2.56 cents per kilowatt hours. And also a transmission cost adjustment, TC adjustment, which is 0.16 cents per kilowatt hours. So this will impact our residential customer who using the 700 kilowatt hours per month, about $19 of increase, which is around 17% increase of their monthly bills. And so Mark, actually from the financial companies, he helped us to do some analysis and give the commissioners more detail of the information about this adjustment. And if you have any questions, you can ask the Mark or us, or Ron can help to explain.
Okay, can I go ahead and share my screen?
Yes, please.
You hear us well, Mark?
All right. Can everybody see my screen?
Yes. Can you hear us
Okay,
well?
great. All right, well, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to be here and talk to you about the purchase power adjustment. I want to give you a little bit of a background on that. About 4 years ago, prior to 4 years ago, we would adjust the purchase power adjustment monthly. You know, it's part of the rate schedule. And so every month it would change, it'd go up or down, depending on the cost of CMEC. And about 4 years ago, we changed the methodology slightly. Rather than do it monthly, we would adjust the PPA basically once a year unless there was a significant change. And so we would set the rate that we would pay to CMEC in April, and any variations from that rate that we paid, either up or down, would be either added to the rate stabilization account at CMEC or drawn out of it. Now, what's happened around the country, I mean, we've done work in 46 states, and almost every location is having upward pressure on their purchase power cost. And it's driven by a lot of factors, which I'll go into, but it was to some degree modestly predictable, because in the transition from basically what's called dispatchable generating units to more renewables that are intermittent, there wasn't a lot of investments made in the dispatchable generating units. And because of that, it made our power supply costs unstable, especially in the winter periods. And of course, last February, the crisis in Texas, you know, we saw power supply costs hit all-time highs in the state of Texas, and that actually went all the way throughout that whole region, Arkansas, Missouri, these increases in power supply cost. Now, in New England area, you have certain constraints in natural gas, and which is even creating more upward pressure on power supply cost. And the natural gas prices in the United States have more than doubled in the past year. They've gone from about $3.50 per MMBTU to over $7. And of course, most of our power supply, that generation that's left, is produced by the natural gas, causing upward pressure again on market prices of power supply. And we started to see it in September, October of last year, when we saw power supply costs increasing. And when we look at the power supply cost increases that have already occurred, plus what's projected for this fiscal year, power supply costs are projected, CMEX costs for Groton increased by about 24%. And then as E mentioned, an additional 15% increase for next year. And so what we looked at multiple scenarios, and I'm just going to show you two, on how to pass this on to customers. And obviously one way would be a consideration was what would happen if we kept our power supply costs at $76.99 per megawatt hour, which is what we're currently paying to CMEC. Now, of course, if we were to do that, put my screen on here. This is the rate stabilization fund at CMEC, and we need to maintain approximately 8 million in that account for working capital at CMEC. And what would happen is, because of the drawdowns on the rate stabilization account, because of the increases, basically we would fall below that level in January of next year and actually fall to negative in June of 2023. So what we're looking at doing is to pass these CMEC costs onto our customers to stabilize our rate stabilization account. And even increasing it to $100.59 a megawatt hour, you can see we're still drawing down on our rate stabilization accounts, pretty much right to the minimum levels during this period of time. Now, these costs and the $100.59 that we would be paying to CMEC, what our intention is right now it's based on projections, and of course that could vary, things change, and we want to monitor this periodically throughout the year, and possibly, power supply costs come down in price to possibly lower that PPA adjustment. But what this means is, oops, here we go. The PPA would need to be set at 2.7 cents per kilowatt hour. So an average residential customer that uses about 700 kilowatt hours a month would see approximately a $19 increase in their monthly electric bills to pass this on. And like I said, it's beyond our control. It's the market prices and what's occurring throughout the market, throughout the whole United States. So with that, is there any questions at all on what I've discussed or what I've gone through?
Questions from the committee? Okay, Mark, please continue.
Right. Now, just so you know how we set that rate at $100.59, this is the forecasted power supply cost for the upcoming year. And we get margin revenues. And what margin revenues are is basically, not to get too technical, but CMEC has to maintain certain debt covered ratios. So they have to charge a premium within our rate. Then at the end of the year, they refund that premium that we paid. So for purposes of setting the power supply cost adjustment, we actually use that margin rebate as a subtraction. So basically, even though throughout the year, theoretically, we're charged 41 million, we're trying to recover about 40.6 million in our charges to customers. And of course, if this is the projected megawatt hours of energy throughout the year. So we need to set that rate to CMEC at $100.59. That's of course assuming that their projections are correct. And of course, we're going to be reviewing that for the most part, probably monthly. One of the things to be aware of is, I want to show you this down here, is what happens or what's projected is between April and September, The average power supply cost from CMEC is actually projected at about $85. But then between October and March, it's projected to rise to an average of $130. And for our customers, for the stability for our customers, what we're doing is we're averaging that over the course of the entire year, and setting it at that $100. Otherwise, what would happen is the PPA between now and September might be a small amount. But then in October through March, the PPA would have to go up substantially in order for us to remain whole. So we felt it best to levelize it and monitor these projections. So I believe that's my last slide. Is there any questions or discussion?
Commissioner Ziliak.
Mark, that carries us through the next year. Just thinking even further on, do you think this is gonna go up continuously or in the next 2 or 3 years? Will we have to adjust again then?
It's possible.
I mean,
You know,
costs are always going up and there's no way inflation doesn't stop.
correct. Well,
Go ahead.
you have to remember there's a lot of factors that are influencing this. Another factor that I didn't mention is coming off of COVID. There was a substantial increase in the demand for power supply. And of course, when that demand occurs, primarily in the winter months, we're operating, or the market is operating, less efficient generating units, which is driving or increasing that cost of the market power supply. And of course, if that demand starts to come down, or at least stabilizes, market prices will likely come with it. And there's so many external factors. I mean, the war in Ukraine has an influence, but there's a lot of other factors you'd be on that. It's primarily driven on demand, though.
Demand at CMEC or demand at Groton Utilities?
Demand in the whole New England area, actually, because your power supply costs are driven by the cost in the New England region. And so as the demand in the whole region increases, that creates the upward pressure on prices. It isn't just Groton or CMEC members, it's the whole region.
A couple other challenges that we have is, one, we don't know what the volatility of natural gas is going to be. We also don't know. So you have the volatility in gas prices, but you also don't know what the volume or the amount of gas that we're going to get. Because remember, they had that one pipeline that they were trying to take from Maine down to here that ended up being stopped for some reason. So we also have a supply issue. So it's the cost of gas, but it's also the availability of gas. And that's a challenge as well.
Yeah, I do want to emphasize too, this is not unique to New England region. It's all over the United States. Here in Michigan, we've seen substantial increases in electric prices. You know, even the members I work with here in Michigan, they're having to set their PPAs at levels that they've never seen before because of this upward pressure. Even with all the hedging of market prices and everything that they're doing, the market prices are just so high.
Where does it put Groton, you in New England in terms of pricing?
We would still be 28.5% below the region in Connecticut.
Yeah.
Are the other major utilities going to see the same increase?
So Eversource adjusted their power supply costs in January, and they did go up. They went up substantially. At that time, we actually have a margin close to 40% below Eversource. So we're shrinking that margin down with this change that we're doing, but we'll still be well below them.
One of the questions I asked on Friday is, if you look at the other member utilities in CMAQ, where do we stand with them? And we're still gonna be competitive with them. Norwich Public Utilities raised their rates recently. They're not planning on doing it again until July because they just raised them. I think you said, is this gonna answer that question?
This is the flyer that's going in the bills in April.
Okay,
We didn't put a comparison in to the other utilities in there.
let's finish that conversation real quick. So we know that other utilities, didn't you tell me that, Norwich
City.
no, we talked about Norwich City. You said Norwich City was going up?
I spoke to the general manager of Jewett City. He's planning to go up probably May 1st. Norwich Public Utilities is they went up recently, maybe 3 or 4 months ago. And they're gonna plan on going up again, probably not. They're gonna hold off until July because they've already just done a rate increase and they don't wanna keep going. But this is purchase power adjustment, so it's kind of a flow through. They already have giant purchase power adjustments on the gas. Norwich, I didn't speak to the Norwalks. But at the next, I asked Dave Meisinger at CMAQ to bring this up in the next CMAQ meeting, just so we'd have a discussion with what everybody was doing. Every month at the CMAQ meeting, they talk about their forecast and how natural gas is affecting everybody else.
And although it's not a direct comparison, but if you look at gas prices now, meaning gasoline prices, that was nationwide, right? So the impact was not just regional. So this impact with the natural gas is not just regional.
But one question I have is, when you sit, when you call it mark perhaps, or when you do periodically, what time frame are we talking about? When you do this periodical review?
Well, he watches the numbers every month. And so Ron and I, in the financial meetings, we review what we're doing and where the rate stabilization fund is heading and the trend and the forecast. That's updated every month. But the thought was that we'd wait 6 months and do an adjustment in 6 months. Because back 4 or 5 years ago or so, when we decided to stabilize, the idea was to try to get our customers to be used to what their bills were and not change it every month. So also key accounts is doing an effort to go work with all the commercial customers, the larger customers, so that they understand the rate impact and how it's going to affect their budgets. Because if they're July budgeting, they may be looking to do predictions going out into the future also.
So with this pending change of potential higher, would it be fruitful for us to have some kind of a revamp or whatever to share with the businesses or lead with the businesses as you're talking with them, so that they understand the impact, at least, and what's happening to.
Well, what you see in front of you, Tina has put together to go into the April bills. And this is for most residential customers. The grid that you see on there pertains very specifically to a residential customer.
Right.
However, I believe will be in all bills. So the commercial customers will understand this is happening. And key accounts is going to do an outreach specifically to like the top 20.
I was looking more on the outreach aspect so that people understand that we are not just arbitrarily doing this. It's because we have this upward pressure at the same time, and that was a way of putting it. First, just for the commercials.
Well, you could actually do the same thing that we're doing for all the residentials, and you could just tweak it a little bit and change the breakdowns for a larger industrial customer, a larger commercial customer, so they can see what their impact is
Yeah.
versus going like a 200, 250 kilo or kWh, you could do it at a bigger scale, and that would, we could absolutely do that, and so that they would be able to see the impact.
Yeah.
But these would be going in all the customers' bills, because we can't segregate between commercial, industrial, and residential when we're sending the bills out. It would be.
Yeah, I got it. I meant more for the outreach because
Yes.
we want the businesses to understand that, you know, we are impacted and plus we are trying to do what we can do. We are loyal to our customers,
Right.
basically.
And we're actually looking at, and I'm gonna be working with Aaron's team about doing a whole, I don't wanna call it a campaign around this, but I think it's extremely important that not only our customers understand it, but us inside of Groton Utilities understand what's going on. So that ensuring that all of our employees, that they have these handouts and these brochures, and they understand what's going on. Because they're the ones that are gonna get that contact when they're out in the field, the meter readers, the water techs, the electric techs, the line crews. We want to ensure that everybody understands,
Yeah.
what's driving this, so it's, I guess.
It's a broader community. Oh,
Yeah.
everyone. Okay, gotcha. Thanks.
The other reason we want to take a longer view on this is we don't want to be reactionary.
Yeah.
Right, and every month you change your rate. One is a lot of extra work, but two, the customers have no idea what their bills are gonna be.
Right.
So if we can kind of stabilize those bills, going back to what Ron was talking about, that's one of the things we've been looking to, and we've been evaluating for a long time.
And another thing that's extremely, especially for the commissioners, that when this goes into effect April 1st, it's customers' March usage. So anytime that we do any type of an adjustment, we start at the month, and if they're billed on April 1st, that's their usage from, March 1st to April 1st. And then also, which I'm assuming you're aware, we also have a rate change April 1st, also over and above with the PPA and the TCA. We have the other rate change itself.
Any other questions or comments?
How long do you think this campaign for outreach should typically take to inform, educate them about the changes?
Well, these changes, like for the cut, like these inserts, they'll start going out as soon as we start billing at our April bills. And they'll go for the whole month of April. And then with key accounts in customer service, we're gonna kind of coordinate, get stuff out on Facebook, get stuff out on the webpage. I know Dan had talked about getting it in the newsletter. There's a couple other avenues that we can kind of go, but we'll probably have to go through the whole month of April, because you have customers that might not even get their bill till the end of the month.
Right.
The end of April, so they would not see the insert.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
The only thing I want to mention is this is all this adjustment is purely for pass through of the power supply cost. So like we said, we're going to review and make a adjustment like periodically, probably in 6 months. But if in 6 months, if they forecast the power cost going higher than what we predicted now, we might have another adjustment. Or if it's going down, and we might reduce adjustment or even give the credit back to the customer. It's pure driven by the power supply cost. Pass through to the customer.
Thanks, Commissioner Scully. Okay,
But when our increase for April 1st is in the service charge. And our actual KWH charge is going down.
Yes.
So the service charge is fixed. Okay, she answered the question.
Yeah, that it wasn't a large increase at all. More users may have been a decrease.
Correct.
Yeah, the only thing that I would add to this, or maybe revise, is you say Groton Utilities will still be 28.5% below the regional benchmark. Will the average customer understand what that means? Is there another term that we could use that would better be easier for someone to understand?
we're open to recommendations. I wouldn't want to call out any specific customer by name. I mean, a business or a utility by name.
You could say the average Connecticut customer.
Right,
Yeah, we can do that.
yeah. I mean,
Or you can make an average of all the munis in the private one. Right, an average of.
Yeah, almost everybody's Eversource.
Well, luckily we get compared to Eversource. You know, it doesn't matter what we put in here, there are gonna be the naysayers that are gonna come out and say, well, you're not lower than these guys, and so it is what it is. I mean, we put this out, we'll manage it as best we can. In the past, it was recommended to us to not use specific names, right? We don't tend to compare ourselves directly to the MPU or to Jewett City or anybody else or to Eversource. We say the regional supplier.
Yeah, but I think that's why I said the average Connecticut customer part, for
Right.
the average bar customer would understand that better than the term regional benchmark, which we would understand, but.
Yeah, we can update that.
Any other questions or comments on either the PPA or financial highlights?
Right.
I'm sorry, Aaron?
Just to speak very, very briefly, I would like to emphasize that I think there's actually a lot of pride that this organization and this commission should take. We mitigated over $3.5 million worth of power supply costs to our customers, and I think there should be a sense of pride in that. We were able to hold off through the heating season, wait until spring when their energy actually comes down, so their net bill will be less impactful than during summer. Last year, since 2021, we did like $400,000 worth of conservation projects. And we did 43 separate home energy savings and insulation projects. And so I just think there's a lot of pride that we can take that we are working very, very hard to mitigate impacts to our customers.
Well, and this is one of the reasons that I keep pushing to get the information out to the public through social media. Dan and I talk about making sure that people are aware of what the utility is doing. You may have recently seen a couple of pictures about SCAD and Sacred Heart. We did the neighborhood assistance act checks, right? So when we're doing good things, we're trying to get that information out so that people understand the general public gets what we're doing.
So what Aaron said, we'll be on a special vote or some kind of a highlight so that people will catch it in the minutes for the public. I think it should be valuable information.
We have the newsletter, right? It goes
So
to
it's
fairly
saying-
wide distribution.
These are the savings, I mean, the things that we are supposed to be proud about. Groton Utilities community should be proud about. The business of conduct.
Yes, and additionally, next month, you're gonna see the key accounts group making a presentation about how exactly a year ago, you saw a presentation from them for what they were gonna concentrate on over the upcoming year for helping for energy conservation projects and all that. You're gonna see next month how successful that campaign actually was. So you're gonna get it all highlighted here, so it'll be documented, and the team gets to take credit for that.
Thank you.
Well, then we can publish that, get it outside. Because, you know, if we hit just the commissioners and you're hitting 5 folks, but if we get it out on public media, we hit many more than that. I'm not sure what our subscribership is. Dan?
I think, yeah, now more than ever, while we're raising our rates, because we have to, we'll start putting out the news of all the good things that we're doing. And the explanation, the great explanation that Aaron just laid out.
Sure.
What we're doing.
Thank
Will be part of it.
Okay, perfect. Any other questions or comments on this? Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, everybody.
Have a good day.
Thanks, Mark.
Bye-bye.
Okay, we're gonna move on to project initiatives updates, water filtration plant project closeout update. Is that ready to see?
Ray had to
Okay.
step out.
All right, so Is someone, who's going to address this? Or do we want to wait? Is he coming back?
I could do a mini update on that. Yeah, we're working on getting the punch list items completed. The manganese contactors, we think we have them all cleaned, operational, so probably by Friday, there'll be, all the data will be sent to DPH, all the water quality data, and asking their permission for the manganese contactors, the last process for approval by DPH, so we can go to Clearwell. Once that is, then all processes will be approved by DPH. There still will be remaining punch list items to do that and go forward. And I believe E has a total understanding of the financial end of it and payments as well. So that's just a brief update. If anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to try and answer.
And we're removing some tanks this week. They should be done by the end of this week, I think. Is that correct?
I'm not 100% sure. I know that was the plan.
Okay.
They have problems with ice in those blue tanks you're talking about?
Yeah.
Decant tanks, yeah, I followed up on that yesterday. The problem we have is there's ice in them. And they can't drain completely. So as you know, it's getting warm, so
Yep.
they might be around for a little.
I was just going from the brief that I had to say, we have new information today. So that's a major thing. It appears that the HVAC is going, it's in progress and is moving forward. So very soon we will be able to have this plant 100% online with all the different steps, all the different phases and processes in it. So that'll be a tremendous thing. All right, project tracking.
So I noticed that your project tracking document this month doesn't look too much different than last month. We handed it out this morning, sorry I was a little late. So last month it was dated for right up until the UC meeting. We made the decision to cut the deadline at the close of the month. So last month we had all the bills in there that we solved in January that we paid in February. This time we had decided to let it go until from just March 1st or February 1st to February 28th. So that way we can track it month by month, have a much clearer snapshot. The only thing that is additional on this month was a $158,000 purchase order to Phaser. That was approved at last month's usage. So,
Okay. Any questions on project tracking? Is the commission okay with this format? Okay. Yeah, I like this format there. We went through a couple of different ones. I really like this format. Yeah. All right. Do we put another column in here? Date to completion.
sorry, can you ask that question again?
Could we add a column date to completion? Or date of completion?
Yeah,
Which
that's
one?
more.
Date of completion?
Are you referring to budget or schedule?
Approved projects. Yeah.
Estimated completion date for approved projects, right?
Yeah, we could add that.
Right, if you look at the schedules down the bottom, the bar graphs, does that indicate? So if you look out at December of 2022, is it all done in December of 22?
Tentatively, but the point of that graph would be to allow you guys to see the shift that's happened and sometimes, you know, where we are falling financially.
So the graphs down the,
Yeah, I see the time period there, but I can't relate the top part to the bottom.
We can make that clear for you.
Yeah, maybe the description down below is on the timeline.
Yes, sir.
Would be clear, yeah.
Yes, sir.
That'd be better.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anything else on that? All right, moving on. Project update, transmission. That,
Yes.
Randy, is that you?
That's me. So we're locking in our dates for construction right now. June 11th is when we start our first full replacement for the 1280 line. So right now is being secured for that. 17 structures in about a week and a half. So that's pretty impressive. So they'll replace all monopole structures, arms, insulators, etc. right down that right away into the station. We're going to actually roll the taps back to the station. We're going to do a switch replacement. George Fire represents the 5 switches. So our guys actually work inside the station while PAR does construction on the outside. The last thing they'll do is run the OPGW, which is the optical ground wire above the circuit. And then in July, they'll hit the 1410 400 lines. They'll actually hit 400 line first because that has to move out of the way to 1410. 1280 had to go first because there's a couple structures that are in the way of the other two structures. And then that's gonna finish sometime, I believe in July, the end of July, so that we're back in service for the summer months. ISO's concerned that their system would be out during the summer, so. In between us is all the fingers of our Eversource projects are doing continuous projects on the 1410, 1280, and the 400, 100, which are combined at Monte Ferry. So we're working with them as we go. We have to make relay changes and test relays to make sure we accommodate all those changes. Then September is our big outage of the terminal at Buddington, and that's going to take us right through till February. So that's going to be our guys actually in-house are going to start demoing the existing structure as part of it anyway to get it ready for that to happen in September. So that's there's some big news coming.
And if you haven't been over there in the Buddington Station, I recommend you get over. Go over and take a look at this. It's pretty impressive what they've done.
I wish George was here to enjoy the fruits of it.
I want the right of way.
Yeah, yeah.
It's pretty,
It's unbelievable.
it is.
They could drive a trailer truck.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's yeah, it's a work of art.
Compared to what it was,
Oh, yeah.
all the years up there getting stuck.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
Well, driving through there and not knowing what you're gonna hit, because the grass in the front of your vehicle was probably 3 feet, and then it would scratch both sides of the vehicle driving through. Now there's 16-foot roads. The gateways are flat. You don't have to worry about sliding down on the leaves and the rocks and breaking your neck. It's pretty impressive. So
Enormous amount of film must have been brought in.
yeah, lots of film. So, yeah, it's a big project for us. So we're proud of what's going on so far.
Okay, thank you. Heath?
And
I'm
if,
sorry, go ahead.
and if anybody would like to be driven down the right of way, just to see it, just give us a call. Because different people enjoy driving down that road and seeing what's going on, so. Just give us a call or pick a time, or I can reach out.
You guys should go. I've seen it from a distance. I haven't driven it. I haven't been driven, but it is on my list.
I want to see it. So you got two candidates. You want to go for a walk about, or sorry?
Sure.
You want to drive along?
If you want to walk it too, it's only 1.7 miles. end to end.
No, thanks.
But it's uphill both ways.
Yeah, it pretty much is. Yeah, it's very hilly.
But you can get on the high part and see it all now.
Yes.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
yeah, we'll talk about one of the structures specifically later in the approval, but there's one structure, 7445, that we're eliminating one of the structures, and you can see essentially to both ends almost from there.
It's up on the hill.
It's up on that.
So you're taking the two structures out, going one.
Correct. Yes.
I thought that's what it looked like.
Okay, anything else on that?
So when they show up, all the holes are gonna already be.
We're drilling holes now.
Oh, you are.
So we're pretty close to finishing the holes. So they were doing 1410, they jumped over to 1280. What's nice is we're doing the whole right away. So Eversource targeted 1410 400 first, and they did the right away for that. Now they're gonna come back and do the 1280 side. We decided to do the whole thing, just get it all done, do it the right away, drill all the holes. So they're pretty close to being done drilling. So, and we're supposed to get some holes this week for 1280. So they're getting dropped in.
Anything else on that? Okay, moving on, electric post South Yard Assembly Building.
So we're in the middle of the method of procedure, MOP. LIG is doing the basis documents for the relaying, et cetera. So we'll have a very firm idea and a standard of operation for all the relays and breakers as they operate to protect and for our guys to do switching. So the terminals will now be 3-point terminals. So 306 goes from Shenectady to the new station to Trails. The 340 goes from the new station to the old station at EP to Trails. So we are working in the background on a direct transfer trail scheme as well. But once that document's done by LG, we're going to do the
finalize all the documents and procedures and probably run through some demo procedures just to identify what we need. We'll write some switching and then we'll energize probably in the next couple of weeks. So they'll be live to that station, which is fed at 34,500 volts.
When does he plan on using the power?
That's a good question. So they'll probably energize, they might energize their transformers right away, but their 15 kV house, my understanding is they're not ready to connect circuits to that yet, so we'll find out more on that. But they've got to run all the, the primary circuits at 15,000 volts on the inside. So I know they want to get, this is a milestone, I think, to get this powered up, and then it'll supply the 15 kV house, but nothing's, I don't think anything's decided.
So we're within their schedule, we're not.
Yes, correct.
Yeah, the other day when I went to the topping off ceremony down at Electric Boat, I was talking to a bunch of different folks down there and got a lot of people from Berlin and Steel. That's Berlin and Steel. Those are the ironworkers, but then I ended up running into a bunch of electricians. And they just came on board like in the last couple of months down for the project. So we'll start to see some electrical work.
The building shell looks like it's about half a ton. So I heard it's a really nice wind tunnel right now.
Yeah, it's impressive.
It really is.
And they're what they want is they want to get a partial occupancy, about 10% of it, so that they can work out of it. They're working with Joe to figure that whole thing out. All right, anything else on the side there to some of the, all right, moving on, Walker Hill Pump Station.
Local Hill Pump Station, basically the startup is scheduled for the first 2 weeks in April. That's going to be a milestone for that project. And the restoration is going to be scheduled when the weather breaks, basically April and May to finalize that project.
Okay. Any questions on that? That'd be good. That'd be good to be totally done with that project. Yeah. Old business wastewater treatment plant odor update, facility rather update.
So we have had a couple of odor complaints. We have correlated at least one of Mr. Spano's complaints with some grit, the grit chamber cleaning. The timing was a little different, but that certainly would create some odor. And I think that was last Friday. I think when we did that. The other two, when we had folks check the plant out, we could find nothing. And even the timing is suspect on the grit chamber cleaning. Wright Pierce is down there this week. They're going to meet with Joe and the staff to talk about all of the design ideas and process things that Wright Pierce is going to eventually recommend to us, so that they're getting some buy-in and some input from the wastewater treatment staff. And I believe that happens tomorrow.
Yeah, actually kickoff meeting with it. We're moving on a process. We have a 6 month time schedule, basically getting all the testing, plans, schedule, all that in a big package to go out. So with design for the scrubber system and then the system to work with it right here. So.
Okay, any questions on that?
Odor. Big fact was that the pump station in front of the beach this morning. You want odor? That was bad.
Yeah, it's regularly scheduled maintenance. It actually completed all the stations.
Were they actually doing cleaning the tanks?
Yes.
Yeah, that's when they go and they take the biosolids out. I don't remember what the periodicity is, but I know it is routine maintenance
Yes,
that we do on that.
it's on the schedule.
Right. But is there a, I know when we pump from the plant to the tank, we have measures, odor control measures that we do. Are there odor control measures we could do at the given pump stations?
It's a really good point. Maybe we should revisit that narrative.
Let's take a look at that to see if there's any way, I don't know if there's a hood. I don't want to create a problem to solve, but if there's a way to capture the vapors, the smell, or whatever.
Right. Because we're mostly cleaning solids, rags,
Right.
disposables, that kind of thing that really harm our pumping equipment.
Absolutely. Well, I think what they're doing is they're actually vacuuming out the tank, right? Is that
Yeah, the wet well.
close? Yeah, the well.
Yes. Well, we'll look at that. See
Okay.
if if the vendor has any kind of thing that he can do, or somehow come up with something on the door.
Sure.
Okay.
But remember, the vacuum truck is creating a vacuum, it's discharging a ton of air.
Yeah.
So it's a truck thing, it's on the truck side. It's not like-
Normally there would.
It's just, well, just check over.
Right.
You should be at the neighborhood corner store when they do the septic tanks, right? When they do the septic tanks in the front of the house, it's really bad. But when you go to the corner market where they have oils and grease, it's a half mile, a mile all around when they do that. And the whole line doesn't have sewers, so they're pumping routinely. And I run at 4:30 in the morning, and the time they do that is usually at 4 to 5 because of that issue.
Sure.
We could look at the timing. That's usually the way you do that.
Okay, let's do that. And where are we here? Next item is Tri-Town Trail Association. Great presentation.
Sure, I can do a quick update on that. We hope to, at the next utility commission meeting, to have a draft of the consultant's report. We try to address that the commissioners had and that the mayor had in that report. So that's our plan to have that. Just as a side note, and I do appreciate Joe Allen attending these meetings, giving us some information. But as a side note, we do continue to provide the educational opportunities. So with Pequot CFAS and a couple other environmental groups that we allow access to. And more recently, we have this really interesting scientist that wanted to partner with Pequot CFAS to look at all the stone walls and all the stone structures within our watershed. So especially since we're doing a forestry program and road improvements, we wouldn't want to disturb something if it had some kind of historical or scientific basis. So this individual came through our watershed with Pequot CFAS. They did like a 4-hour hike. They have the technical expertise to be able to map this, GPS locate and map this, maybe even be able to present it in 3D. So they found that there were some really interesting structures within our watershed. Probably not as significant as Gunjuan, but still they were significant, and that person has the ability to date those. So again, this is the kind of scientific, that we permit, and we permit this, access to our environmental groups. We let them go themselves, they're not always on that. And just addressing the events that are occurring this year, I've been working with Dan, and Dan is looking at promoting some of these water events. And I know one thing we have a big tour. I think we have 55 students. I think they're middle school students. So good luck to the tour guides with that. But we're going to have 55, and we're going to promote the National Drinking Water Week during that time. And Dan's going to be involved in that. We'll do some public outreach for that as well. So we do appreciate Joe Allen's comments. And then one other thing Joe Allen did, she didn't mention when she went to the library, is previously, I think you remember, Mayor, your Deputy Mayor, we did a presentation at the library on our water system, and I think you might have coordinated to have it on local television.
Right.
So the person at the library, Groton Library, reached out to us because of Joe Allen, and she wants to do another one. So we might do a roundtable on our water division, and then maybe film that. We can put that out if you coordinate again for us.
Absolutely.
Put that out to the public. So I do appreciate citizens coming forward and giving us that information.
Okay.
And while we're in a PR thing on water, we are looking at when to do the ribbon cutting on the plant, and we're going to start working with the state. And the preliminary target for that would be like around the last week of May. So the plant, we got to coordinate with multiple different levels of people. And the goal is to have a good tour set up with placards and stuff, and the guys that run the facility will be giving tours. And walking people around. And the hope was similar to what we did with wastewater a month or two ago. We had Joe walk you guys through the process. The goal was in the next month or two, hopefully before we hit the ribbon cutting, to do the same thing, to let Paul Hyatt do that with the filtration plant.
It'd be interesting.
My understanding is that someone from the Tri-Town Trail has reached out to the commissioners. I don't have an opinion on that one way or another. If you want to talk to them, you can talk to them. If you don't want to talk to them, you do not have to talk to them. If you want to wait until, or if you want to suggest to them to come and talk to you as a board, as a commission, instead of taking you off one at a time. But that's up to you. I mean, thoughts from the commission?
I'm sorry.
Commissioner,
I did get a call, I've just been so busy, I haven't returned it, but I do think it would, in my personal opinion, it would be more effective if they talked to us as a group, because what one of us individually thinks is really not, that's my own personal opinion, but that's, that's not the commission speaking. So I wouldn't mind a presentation from them if they wanted to do it, but I'm a little uncomfortable, individually speaking.
I agree with Jeff. I wanted to talk here first before we respond back to them. But I would prefer also to get the draft report from us, get the big picture, understand the whole thing. And then I might ask questions. And we can sit down as a group and discuss with them those concerns.
Okay.
But I prefer our people to give us the total picture of what happens.
I understand. Anybody else?
So I did receive the call. I did speak to the gentleman and I echoed basically what you said. And the fact was, I said that it would be optimal if we also get to a walkabout to see the area and not to make any decisions, just to understand the land and so much more. And thereby as a body to make some kind of a thought process on it. And obviously with our focus on this, the bigger picture, and then we can assimilate everything further. So I let the ball, you're supposed to reach out to you and
Any other commissioner? George?
No, I was gonna say what Rob said about seeing the report come in first.
I will verify who I think it is, and then I'll give them a call. Have an opinion on why they think they're doing, why you do that. I mean, obviously, if you split people up, it's easy to, go after you, then go after you, then go after you, then go after you, rather than try to come and convince the group, right? So, but I'll give them a call. I'll verify who it is, and then I'll give them a call. We, from the beginning, the commission has said that they were open-minded to information and to understanding what people are trying to do. The commission has also made no bones about our commitment to the watershed and to the protection of the water quality. I did have a conversation with Cape Breton with the Southeastern Connecticut Council of Governments, and there may be some grants out there that may be available to us depending on what the study shows. And she reached out to Mark Berry based on a couple of things that I said, and that the COP property is town property, so it's not private property, it's town property. They do have signs posted to keep, for nobody to go in the water, keep your dogs out of the water, keep people out of the water. Now, people are people, and people own dogs, and they're going to do whatever the hell they want to do, pretty much. One of the the comments that has been brought up is that the same watershed that we're saying you can't go into, other people and dogs are going into it when they go to the cop property to walk their dogs. Now, we don't control that. We don't own that. So we can't control that. We can discourage and we can talk to the town and the town can discourage. But absent putting up a fence, it's not going to keep people out of the water. Now, the difference is that we, as the utility, own the reservoirs on the property and we can control access to the waters. That's the big difference. And so we're going to continue to evaluate this. We look forward to whenever the study is ready. If it's next month, that's great. If it's the month after, I mean, right now, status quo is what status quo is. We still allow access to the utility property. And we just have to figure out what it is people want. And then we'll go on there. Director, you got a comment?
Yes, I wasn't made aware that Chad was reaching out to people, Chad Frost, and asking people if he could walk them on the watershed.
You were or were not?
He wrote me yesterday.
Oh, okay.
So I was made aware of that, and I said that it's a little bit more complicated than just grabbing people because there's a possibility of it being a meeting. So I said it would probably come up as a topic today. And internally, I believe what we believe is that when the report comes out, there'll be a discussion which will allow you to analyze and think a little bit. And then at that point, we can discuss as a group how you might want to walk the watershed, if you want to walk the watershed, or maybe it'd be a driving tour or whatever. We'll see what we would do. That way, as you see it, you could actually engage and have enough understanding to ask good questions.
Right.
And that would actually close the loop. And at that point, if you want to bring Chad, if it is a real meeting, it would end up being open and whoever wants can come along, and but it would be guided by, you know, GU, and we'd go through and enlighten everybody, because the idea is to do just that. And I can close the loop with him and tell him that.
Well, I'm going to revise my statement now, having heard that he's reached out to you. You and I need to have a conversation and then determine who's going to reach out to him.
Okay.
But somebody will reach out to him regarding this. Any other questions on the tri-town train? All right, purchasing policy, Sue?
There's an item in the packet. It's basically took the index of the current purchasing policy with some notations about proposed changes. As we've been saying for quite some time, a lot of the procedural items will be removed from the policy, and there'll be supporting documents will be moved to the appendix section. Expect to have I don't want to use the term red line draft, because the policy in its current state, there wouldn't be much left of it if I did a red line, so it's going to be more of a full proposal, and you'll be able to see the comparisons between the two. We did have a conversation with the committee of the whole on the 28th for a high-level overview of the expected changes that we would like to make. And there was some mixed discussion about it at that time. And I believe there was a comment of potentially having a joint session with the commission and council on that subject. But I'll let them there speak more to the committee's responses. But next month, you should have a draft of the policy.
I made a decision to give a high level overview of this to the council, as opposed to giving them a markup with 3 different colors and 3 different highlights and going into give them a lot of detail that they would have to figure out over the weekend and then bring it in to discuss based on previous council meetings and where I think the council is now. They were unhappy with that. And they were split, but they're pretty much split anyway. Some people wanted everything because that's what they do for a living, is they dive into information. Other people were okay with being walked through, but I've had discussions with them when we're teaching. I'm teaching to the middle of the class. So we got people that would be overwhelmed with all that information. And then we have people that, why don't you give us more information? But that's the side. I did what I did, and I don't really care. They got an overview. They're gonna get more information when we are ready, when the utility is ready. They'll let me know, and then I'll talk to you guys and talk to the council, probably brief you guys first, and then talk to the council about having a joint meeting with the utility commission and the council. Right? It's important that the commission understands this thoroughly first, before, in my opinion, before we bring the council. The council needs to understand, because the way the charter is written, they're involved. But you guys, this commission, this board commission is the governing body for the utility. So it's important that you guys, you members, understand the purchasing policy at a deeper level than the council. So is that an accurate description of what occurred?
Very accurate. It was a split council. Some people like to know a lot of detail. And the very last comment that was made was maybe the council has to let go a little bit. I think that's almost the point.
It wasn't for me, that was for somebody else.
No, it was from, yeah, it was.
Yeah.
But there was a lot of discussion.
So we will continue to move forward with the purchasing policy. And then when we get there, we get there. And at some point, we will have a joint meeting with the utility commission and council. All right.
I somewhat had brought my attention to the meeting of the 28th, and there was concern and questions going on. And I had reached out, I didn't reach out. I had a conversation with one of my council members in general, just to find out what's going on. I got the impression that maybe there was some misinformation that was not understood. And what our intention is with this purchase policy, and what we're trying to accomplish, we're getting things quickly through processing without delaying projects and programs. And bottom line is, I agree, we need to sit down with them, I think, together and explain why we're doing what we're doing. Reestablish the confidence in the council on the utility commission itself, the utility program. I think once they understand how it should work better, we will make our fun.
Yeah, I think we'll be okay. I mean, I just recently met with Bruce and Josh about project planning, and I get a fairly in-depth view we meet once a month or once every 2 weeks? Once a month. So we meet once a month, we go over all the projects in detail, and so I make sure that I'm comfortable with where we are. The thing that is coming up that is, we are up against, in some cases, bids that are only good for 2 or 3 or 4 days.
Yeah.
So what the utility has to figure out, so they can tell me, so I get to you guys and then get to the council, is how do we manage the business and then manage the policies that either are currently written or that are going to be written, so that there's confidence still maintained that the utility is not running amok and there's oversight, right, with the commission and with the council. That's the balance that we're trying to obtain. There's still some skepticism at the council level, and in some cases there's a mistrust of the utility, but in some cases there's a question about what am I telling them, what am I telling them?
Yeah.
That kind of stuff. So, some of that is politically driven. Some of that is driven by personalities, but, we're gonna get there. Yeah, it is what it is.
We'll figure it out.
We will. Anything else on person policy? All right, moving on, new business, anything under new business? All right, action items, I'd like to have a motion for GUC WPCA 22-03-06, consideration of an action to authorize Groton Utilities Management to approve a three-year standard rental service agreement with a two-year renewal option, an issue of purchase order not to exceed $29,200.00 for each of the next 3 years to Centos Post Office Box 630921, Cincinnati, Ohio, for water and wastewater uniform rental to be paid from the approved water and wastewater FY 2022 operating budget. Furthermore, the city council be apprised of this action with the recommendation that it concur. We have a motion and a second discussion.
Cintas is the uniform provider for the majority of the steel workers. Steel workers do the wastewater plant, and they also do the filtration, the whole water company. And actually, they also do public works in the back along with some parts and rec. But Cintas is the contractor that we have used for several years. They're holding the price steady to keep the business. And they're also an approved vendor with US Communities, which allows it to be a competitive price. So since they're holding their price and they've defined their increased schedule moving forward, and their contract has expired, the pricing agreement, we're putting through the approval. The reason it goes through the approval is because if you add 3 years together, at 30,000, it's more than 50,000.
Questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion carries. We have a motion on GUC WPCA 22-03-07, consideration of an action to amend the action item GUC WPCA 21-12-61 to change the approved purchase order from $137,400.00 to $161,231.00 submitted to Nutmeg International Trucks Incorporated, 130 Brainerd Road, Hartford, Connecticut, for the 2024 International HB 507 dump truck with the Cummins diesel due to vendors' inability to honor the original quoted price due to drastic increases in materials needed for aftermarket truck bed to be installed to be paid from the water division vehicle replacement fund. And furthermore, the city council be apprised of this action with the recommendation that they concur. We'll take a motion.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Who's going to talk to this?
I can just talk to it, this
Okay.
remark, it doesn't matter.
Go ahead. It's fine.
This is a truck that we approved several months ago. And by the time we got it approved and the provider of the body contacted the supplemental vendor that actually builds the dump that goes on the back, he went to lock and buy all the dump things to go onto the body, and the prices changed. So he told the body provider, the dealership, that he couldn't do it. He was not going to do it. So the dealer came back to us and said, well, the price has gone up $23,000. Either I got to take a pass, or do you want to accept the new price? And the new price, we still need the truck. The old truck has been, its engine has been rebuilt several times. So the decision was to move forward with the purchase because the pricing situation may only get worse.
To provide an example of what Sue brought up, that we need to expedite the process.
Right.
Without quite a jump.
Comments from the commission? Commissioner Shelley.
So we're just approving a $23,831 increase in the cost of this truck.
That's correct.
So so we already approved 137,000,
Right.
but now you're asking to approve 161,000. Why wouldn't we just be approving the 23,800? Is that a procedural thing?
Well, it is, because if you look at WPCA 21-12-61, it's authorized 137.4, so we're authorized to buy the truck. Now what we're doing is we're basically going to get rid of that, and we're going to authorize to buy the same truck at the new value.
Okay, so we have to approve the whole.
Right. That's what we, I'm not gonna say we've always done that way. Typically, we have done, that's the way, because it clears the one and starts the other. Instead of piecemeal.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments on this? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, abstention, motion carries. Like a motion on GUC WPCA 22-03-08, consideration of to authorize Groton Utilities Management to issue a purchase order not to exceed $189,699.09, which includes a 10% contingency for Westco Receivables Corporation, 15 Executive Boulevard, Orange, Connecticut, a preferred vendor for purchase of 3 switch gears required to replace existing aging equipment to be paid from the approved electric FY 2022 non-funded capital project capital budget. And furthermore, the city council be apprised of this action with the recommendation that it concur.
So moved.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Who's Randy?
Yes, so these are the S&C switches. There's one behind the municipal building here. There's one on Starkville, and there's one somewhere else. So our plan is to write work orders and go do and replace these. They've been on the list probably since George was a foreman. So they're aging. The relay protection inside is aging. This one back here leaks. The others are just, there's been some issues. We just want to replace them and get our system back to reliability.
Okay.
They've increased in price too. I think we were going to buy just one initially. We're gonna stagger them, and they creeped up over the 50,000 mark. So now we have to go to.
Question or comments on this?
Yeah, back in November, we approved one piece of switch gear for $65,000, which was the one back here.
Okay. Yeah. So this, I think we had.
Are you scrapping that and buying it?
Yeah, we're gonna buy a new one. So we always have a spare.
Yes.
Right, so one of these or that one will become the spare. Right, because we do have a fail, and I think we may have identified, it might be the Kings Highway one is an older model. It's not the same as all the rest as well. So there's others we can use. We have a plan for all of them to go into place, and we're hopefully going to do it as soon as we receive it. I think it's 22-week lead time, so.
So you're buying 4 total? One that we already approved.
Yes, one we already approved, that's correct. Yes, that's correct. Any other questions?
Any other questions? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion carries. Like a motion for GUC WPCA 22-03-09, consideration of an action to authorize a purchase order change for amount. Consideration of an action to authorize a purchase order change for a total amount not to exceed $1,096,428.00, which includes a 10% contingency to cover any additional charges to Saber Industries, 8653 East Highway 67, Alvarado, Texas. The increase due to design changes made by Leidos in agreement with Groton Utilities Engineering to be paid by the transmission lines 1410, 1280, 400 Buddington Substation FY 2022 bond fund project. And furthermore, the city council be apprised of this action, with the recommendation that it concur. Take a motion. We have a motion and a second. Randy?
So as you know, we've been working on the transmission system. So the design work came from Leidos, who worked for the Eversource. That was our mutual agreement to use their resources. As we built and moved down the right of way, we noticed some of these issues where 1280's got to move over a lot more. So to accommodate 3 pole structures for both the 14 10 and the 400 where the, when we talked about 7445. So there were conditions in the field that was either modify those conditions to accommodate the pole heights or modify the pole heights. So we decided to modify the pole heights because we believe the pole height changes were less than modifying the land surface. And then it caused other issues essentially too, if we modified the land conditions. So Leidos modified the design, and these are the increases in the pole adjustments essentially for the heights and whatnot. So, and there's, with all the pole heights, there's construction design that changes as well. So we had to accommodate those changes. So we've been going back and forth with Leidos probably since December of last year, and those changes were also being fed to Sabre, who's the manufacturer of the pole structure. So that's what these changes are. It's an increase of 191,000 from the original 805,000.
Any questions or comments on this?
So this is a price increase due to design change?
Correct. Yes.
Not material. Because didn't this,
Design change and then requirements of the material. So the pole, right, the steel, additional steel for the poles, right? So different heights, yes, it's a, correct.
But it was basically design change, not material, because we already had a material increase on this.
Right. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion carries. There is no executive session. Before we go, though, I want to let you know that Jill Rusk will be leaving today. It's her last day. So if you wanted to stop by and say something to her, she is going to the United Way. And we have a very close relationship with them, and I'm sure they'll all get better. So with that, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, abstention, motion carries. We are adjourned. Thank you, Commission, for being here. Staff, thank you for what you do every day.